Welcome back to Dark Revenge Chronicles. Today's story takes you into the dangerous world of organized crime, where a woman must become more ruthless than the men who underestimated her. This is the Mafia Queen's Gambit, a story of power, betrayal, and the making of a queen who bows to no one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more dark romance stories. Isabelle Moretti never wanted to be a mafia wife. At 24, she had plans. Law school, a career far from her family's criminal empire, a normal life where Sunday dinners didn't involve discussing murder and territory disputes. But in the world of organized crime, what you want doesn't matter. What matters is what serves the family. Her father, Giovanni Moretti, controlled the port operations in New York. The Moretti family had been powerful for 3 generations, but recently, rivals had been encroaching on their territory. The Russians, the Irish, smaller families sensing weakness. Giovanni was getting older, and without a male heir, people whispered that the Moretti empire would crumble when he died. The solution, as Giovanni saw it, was simple. Marry Isabelle to Luca DeLuca, the heir to the DeLuca crime family. Unite the 2 families through marriage, consolidate power, present a united front against their enemies. Isabelle had met Luca exactly 3 times before her father announced the engagement. He was 32, handsome in a cold sort of way, with dark eyes that seemed to calculate the value of everything they saw. He ran the DeLuca family's operations with ruthless efficiency. People feared him. People respected him, but nobody really knew him. "You'll marry him in 3 months," Giovanni announced over dinner, as casually as if he were discussing the weather. "The wedding will be at the cathedral. 500 guests. We'll show everyone that the Morettis and DeLucas are now one family." Isabelle's mother, Sophia, reached over and squeezed her hand, a gesture of sympathy that changed nothing. In their world, daughters were chess pieces, moved around the board to protect the king. "I don't love him," Isabelle said quietly. "Love." Her father laughed, not unkindly. "Bella, love is a luxury. Power is what keeps us alive. You'll learn to appreciate what Luca offers. Protection, status, security. What does he get? You, your beauty, your intelligence, your family name. And eventually sons to carry on both our legacies." Giovanni's expression softened slightly. "I know this isn't what you dreamed of, but dreams are for people who have the luxury of choice. We have responsibilities." The next time Isabelle saw Luca was at a formal dinner to celebrate their engagement. He arrived late, expensive suit perfectly tailored, surrounded by his men. When he looked at her, his expression was unreadable. "Isabelle," he said, taking her hand and pressing a kiss to it. The gesture was proper, traditional, and completely devoid of warmth. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." She studied him, trying to see beyond the cold exterior. "I suppose we should talk about expectations, about what this marriage will actually be." "Come, let's go somewhere private." He led her to her father's study, closed the door, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. When he handed her one, she noticed his hands. Strong, scarred, hands that had done violence. "I know you don't want this marriage," Luca said bluntly. "Neither do I. I had other plans for my life that didn't involve a wife chosen by family obligation." "Then why agree to it?" "Because like you, I understand duty, and because refusing would have started a war between our families." He took a drink. "But let me be clear about what this will be. You'll be my wife in name and public appearance. You'll attend events with me, play the role of devoted spouse, give me heirs when the time comes. In return, you'll have access to wealth, protection, and freedom to do whatever you want within reason." "Within reason?" "No lovers. No scandals, no actions that embarrass either family. But otherwise, if you want to go back to school, pursue interests, live your life, I won't stop you. We'll maintain separate bedrooms, separate lives where possible. This is a business arrangement, nothing more." Isabelle should have been relieved. He was offering her more freedom than most mafia wives got. But something about his cold detachment made her angry. "And what about you? Will you be faithful to this business arrangement?" "I'm not a monk, Isabelle. But I'm discreet. You'll never be humiliated by stories of my indiscretions." "How generous." She set down her glass. "You want to know what I think? I think you're a coward." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. You're so afraid of actually feeling something that you've built walls around yourself. You'd rather have a cold, empty marriage than risk being vulnerable with someone. And you're naive if you think love has any place in our world. Love gets you killed. Love makes you weak. I've seen it destroy strong men, turn them into fools who sacrifice everything for a woman who'll probably betray them anyway. Someone hurt you, Isabelle realized. That's what this is about. This conversation is over. Luca moved toward the door, then paused. The wedding is in 3 months. Use that time to make peace with what your life is going to be, because once you're mine, there's no escape. Divorce isn't an option in our families. Till death do us part. And in our world, death comes early and often. He left, and Isabelle stood alone in the study, anger and resignation warring inside her. She'd just agreed to marry a man who saw her as a business transaction. A man who'd already decided their marriage would be empty and cold. But Isabelle Moretti had spent her whole life being underestimated because she was a woman. What Luca didn't know, what no one knew except her father, was that Giovanni had been training her since she was 16, teaching her the business, the strategies, the brutal realities of their world. He'd always known he had no sons, and he refused to let the Moretti empire die with him. If Luca DeLuca wanted a quiet, obedient wife who'd stay in her place, he'd chosen the wrong woman. Isabelle would play the role expected of her. But she'd also be watching, learning, waiting for her moment, because she had no intention of being just a Mafia wife. If she was going to be trapped in this world, she'd become something far more dangerous. She'd become a queen. The wedding was exactly what you'd expect from 2 crime families. Extravagant, expensive, and tense with underlying threats. 500 guests filled the cathedral, half of them carrying weapons despite the sacred setting. Isabelle wore a custom Virawan gown that cost more than most people made in a year, and felt like she was attending her own funeral. Luca looked devastating in his tuxedo, and when he lifted her veil to kiss her, there was a flash of something in his eyes, not warmth exactly, but recognition, like he was acknowledging her as a worthy opponent in whatever game they were about to play. "You look beautiful," he murmured against her lips. "You look expensive," she replied, and felt him smile. The reception was held at the DeLuca estate, a massive compound that would now be her home. As they danced their first dance, Luca held her properly, formally, maintaining the perfect amount of distance. "Smile," he said quietly. "Everyone's watching. I am smiling. You're grimacing. There's a difference." His hand pressed slightly firmer against her back. "I know this isn't what you wanted, but we both have roles to play now. The devoted husband and loving wife, something like that." He spun her, and for a moment they moved in perfect sync. "You dance well." "My mother insisted on lessons. Said a proper lady should know how to dance, how to host parties, how to smile while men discuss business as if she's not in the room." "You resent it. Being treated as decoration, wouldn't you?" Isabelle met his eyes. "Imagine spending your whole life being told you're not good enough, not strong enough, not male enough to matter, and then being married off to a man who sees you as a necessary inconvenience." Luca was quiet for a moment. "I don't see you as an inconvenience." "No? What do you see me as?" "I haven't decided yet, but you're not what I expected." The song ended, and he released her. "Come, we need to make the rounds, accept congratulations, play the happy couple." The rest of the evening was a blur of faces, congratulations that felt like threats, and carefully worded conversations where every word had 3 meanings. Isabelle watched how Luca moved through the crowd, commanding respect without demanding it, reading situations instantly, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. She also watched the women. Some looked at Luca with lust, others with fear. A few looked at Isabelle with pity, assuming she'd just been sold into a marriage with a cold, dangerous man. They didn't know she'd been studying her husband all evening, cataloging his strengths and weaknesses, learning how to read him. Late in the evening, an older man approached, Salvatore Russo, head of the Russian operations in Brooklyn. He smiled at Isabelle, but his eyes were calculating. "Beautiful bride," he said in heavily accented English. "Luca is lucky man. I offered your father good price for you. He chose DeLuca instead." He laughed as if it was a joke. It wasn't. Before Luca could respond, Isabelle smiled sweetly and said in perfect Russian, "Perhaps my father knew that true value can't be measured in money. Mr. Russo, and perhaps he knew that some men aren't worthy of what they can't afford." Russo's expression darkened, but several people nearby laughed. She'd just insulted him in his own language, publicly, at her own wedding. It was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Luca's hand tightened on her waist. "Excuses, Salvatore. I need to dance with my wife." He led her onto the dance floor, his expression unreadable. That was dangerous. He insulted me first. Talking about buying me like property. He did. But you don't understand the game yet. Russo is looking for excuses to start trouble. You just gave him ammunition. Or I showed him that the DeLuca family isn't weak. That we won't be disrespected, even by him. Isabelle held his gaze. You wanted a wife who'd smile and stay quiet. But that's not who I am. If I'm going to be in this world, I'm going to be a player, not a piece. For the first time, Luca looked at her with something like respect. You speak Russian, and Italian, French, and Spanish. My father believed in education. What else did your father teach you? Things that would surprise you. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. You think I'm just a pretty face you were forced to marry? But I've been studying our world since I was 16. I know more about the business than most of your men, so you can either use that, or you can ignore it. But don't make the mistake of underestimating me. The song ended. Luca released her, his expression thoughtful. It's time to leave. We have a week in Italy for our honeymoon. Villa on the Amalfi coast. Romantic, she said dryly. Private. Away from everyone who'll be watching us here. He offered his arm. Come, wife. Let's say our goodbyes. The villa was stunning, perched on cliffs overlooking the Mediterranean, with terraced gardens and privacy that money could buy. They arrived late at night, exhausted from travel, and staff showed them to the master suite. One bed. Isabelle looked at it, then at Luca. I thought you said separate bedrooms. At home, yes. But this is our honeymoon. People will talk if we don't share a room. He loosened his tie. I'll sleep on the couch. Don't be ridiculous. The bed is enormous. We can share it like adults. She disappeared into the bathroom to change, and when she emerged in silk pajamas, Luca was already in bed reading on his tablet, wearing only pajama pants. She tried not to stare at his chest, muscled, scarred in places, telling stories of violence survived. He looked up, caught her staring, and raised an eyebrow. See something interesting? Just wondering how you got the scar. The one on your ribs, knife fight when I was 19. Learned a valuable lesson about watching my back. Isabelle climbed into bed, maintaining careful distance. Do you have many scars? Enough. Comes with the territory. He set down the tablet. You should sleep. Tomorrow we can explore the coast if you want. Play tourist, and play happy couple? If anyone's watching, yes. If not, he shrugged. We can just be two people on vacation. They lay in darkness, and Isabelle felt the strangest urge to reach across the space between them. Not sexually, just connection. But she remembered his words about walls and vulnerability, and stayed on her side of the bed. Luca? Yes? Thank you, for not making this harder than it has to be. You're my wife now. That means something, even if it's not what either of us wanted. He was quiet for a moment. Good night, Isabelle. Good night. The week in Italy was strange. By day, they explored the coast, ate at small restaurants, acted like tourists. They laughed occasionally, discovered shared interests in art and history. Luca was surprisingly well-read, and their debates about philosophy and politics were the first real conversations they'd had. By night, they shared the bed carefully, maintaining their invisible boundary. But Isabelle noticed things. How Luca sometimes woke from nightmares, though he never talked about them. How he was gentler than he pretended to be, pulling her back from the edge of the cliff path when she got too close, ordering food he knew she liked without asking. On their last night, they had dinner on the terrace overlooking the sea. Wine, candlelight, the sound of waves below. It was almost romantic if you forgot this was a business arrangement. I have a question, Isabelle said, emboldened by wine. You said someone hurt you. That love destroyed strong men. What happened? Luca's jaw tightened. That's not a conversation for tonight. When will it be a conversation? Never, ideally. He poured more wine. Some things are better left buried, and some things fester in the dark. She leaned forward. We're going to be married for the rest of our lives, Luca. We don't have to be in love, but we could at least be honest with each other. He stared out at the sea for a long time. Finally, he said, her name was Juliana. I was 25, she was 23. Beautiful, smart, made me believe in possibilities I'd never considered. We were engaged. I thought she loved me. What happened? She was working for the FBI. Everything between us was a lie to get close to my family. When I found out, He stopped, his expression hardening. I handed her over to my father. He made an example of her. And I learned that in our world, trust is the most dangerous thing you can give someone. Isabelle felt a chill despite the warm night. You killed her, my father did. I just didn't stop it. He finished his wine. So you see, Isabelle, this arrangement we have? It's better this way. No trust, no betrayal. No love, no heartbreak. Just mutual benefit and respect. That's a lonely way to live. Lonely is safe. Lonely keeps you alive. He stood. We should pack. We leave tomorrow morning. Back in their bedroom, as they prepared for sleep, Isabelle watched Luca and saw past his walls for the first time. He wasn't cold because he didn't feel. He was cold because he'd felt too much once, and it had destroyed him. She climbed into bed, and for the first time, she reached across the invisible line between them. Her hand found his in the darkness. I'm not her, Isabelle said quietly. I'm not trying to destroy you or betray you. I'm just trying to survive this life we've been forced into. Luca didn't pull his hand away. I know, but knowing doesn't make trust easier. Then maybe we start smaller. Not trust, just not enemies. Can we do that? His fingers tightened on hers. Yes, we can do that. They fell asleep holding hands, and it felt like the first honest moment of their marriage. Back in New York, reality crashed back in. Luca returned to running his empire, often gone from dawn until midnight. Isabelle was left to navigate her new role as Mrs. DeLuca, which mostly meant hosting dinners, attending charity events, and being decorative. She hated it. 2 months into their marriage, everything changed. Isabelle was in Luca's study, looking for a book, when she found files left open on his desk. She knew she shouldn't look, but curiosity won. The files detailed a major deal Luca was negotiating, a partnership with a shipping company to move legitimate goods. It would bring millions in clean money, help transition the family business away from purely criminal operations. It was smart, strategic, exactly the kind of move that would secure their future. But as Isabelle read through the contracts, her law school training kicked in. Something was wrong. The terms looked good on surface, but buried in the legal language was a clause that would give the shipping company access to DeLuca operations, routes, schedules, information that could be weaponized. She was still reading when Luca came home early and found her at his desk. What are you doing? His voice was dangerous. Reading your contracts and finding problems. She looked up. This shipping deal. It's a trap. Look at Section 12, subsection D. They're asking for operational intel that no legitimate company would need. I have lawyers who reviewed this. Then your lawyers are idiots or they're on the take. She spread the papers out. Look, they want access to your schedules, your routes, your security protocols. Why would a shipping company need to know your security protocols? Luca moved to the desk, his expression skeptical. But as he read where she pointed, his face darkened. Son of a bitch. This is information gathering. Someone's trying to map your operations, probably to hit you. Who proposed this deal? Marco Santini, one of my father's old associates. Luca pulled out his phone. I need to make some calls. Wait. Isabelle grabbed his arm. If you confront Santini directly, he'll know someone found the trap. You'll lose the element of surprise. Better to let him think you're still walking into it. And then what? Then you turn the trap back on him. Feed him false information, set up fake operations for him to hit. When he moves, you'll know exactly who's behind it and what they're planning. Luca stared at her. That's actually brilliant. And devious. I've been studying this world my whole life, remember? She met his gaze. You said I could live my life within reason. Well, this is what I want to do. I want to be part of the business. Not just decoration. An actual partner. It's dangerous. Everything about our lives is dangerous. At least let me be useful." He was quiet for a long moment, and she saw the calculation in his eyes. Finally, he nodded. "All right, but you follow my lead. You don't make moves without consulting me first. Agreed?" "Agreed." Over the next month, Isabelle became an unofficial advisor to Luca. She reviewed contracts, spotted problems his lawyers missed, offered strategic insights that came from studying the business without being consumed by it. Her outside perspective was valuable, and Luca started including her in more discussions. She was also good at reading people. At a dinner with the Santini family, while the men talked business, Isabelle chatted with Marco's wife, Gia. Within 20 minutes, she'd learned that Marco was in debt, gambling heavily, and had recently come into unexpected money. She passed the information to Luca later that night. "Santini's being paid to set you up. Someone's bankrolling him. Who? I don't know yet, but I'll find out." She pulled up information on her laptop. Financial records, business deals, connections. "Give me a few days. I have sources my father developed over the years." "What sources?" "The women none of you notice. The wives, the mistresses, the daughters who serve drinks at your meetings. They see everything, hear everything, and nobody thinks they matter." Isabelle smiled. "My father taught me to build a network of them. Information is power, and women in our world have access to secrets men never notice." Luca looked at her with newfound respect. "You're not what I expected. I'm rarely what people expect. It's my greatest advantage." Within a week, Isabelle's network identified the source. Salvatore Russo, the Russian boss she'd insulted at her wedding. He was using Santini to gather intelligence for a major move against the DeLuca family. Armed with this information, Luca prepared a counter-operation. They fed Santini false information about a major shipment arriving at the docks. When Russo's men showed up to hit it, they found a trap instead. 20 Russians arrested, millions in weapons and drugs seized by police who'd been tipped off anonymously. Russo was furious, but he couldn't prove the DeLucas were behind it. And Santini? He disappeared quietly, a message sent to anyone else who might consider betraying the family. The night after it all went down, Luca came home to find Isabelle in the library, reading. He sat beside her, exhausted but satisfied. It worked. Russo's operation in the city is crippled. He won't be able to move against us for at least a year. Good. She set down her book. So does this mean you'll stop treating me like a decorative wife and start treating me like a partner? You've proven yourself. But Isabelle, you need to understand. The people in our world won't accept a woman having real power. They'll see you as a threat. Let them. I'm your wife. That gives me a position of influence whether they like it or not. She leaned closer. Besides, they underestimate me. Just like you did. That's my weapon. Luca reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering. When did this happen? When did what happen? When did you go from an obligation to someone I actually want on my side? Probably around the time you realized I'm smarter than half your crew. She smiled. Or maybe when you realized I don't want to destroy you. I want to build something with you. Build what? An empire. A real one. Not just crime and violence, but legitimate power. The kind that lasts. She held his gaze. You said love makes you weak. Maybe. But partnership makes you stronger. And that's what we could have if you let yourself trust me. Trust isn't easy for me. I know. But I'm patient. And I'm not going anywhere. She stood. I'm going to bed. Are you coming? In a while. But when Isabelle woke later that night, Luca was beside her, closer than he'd ever been. His arm was around her waist, and in his sleep, he'd pulled her against him. She should have moved away, maintained the boundaries they'd established, but instead, she settled into his embrace and let herself imagine what it might be like if this marriage became real, if the business arrangement became something more. The attempt on Luca's life came on a cold. December evening, they were leaving a restaurant when gunfire erupted. Luca shoved Isabelle into the car, covered her body with his, and ordered his driver to go. Bullets shattered the back window and Isabelle felt Luca grunt in pain. You're hit. She tried to check him, but he held her down. Flesh wound. Stay down. They made it back to the compound, and Isabelle watched in horror as blood seeped through Luca's jacket. In the safety of their bedroom, she forced him to let her look at the wound. A bullet had grazed his shoulder, deep but not life-threatening. "You need a doctor," she said, hands shaking as she applied pressure. "No doctors. Too many questions," he hissed as she cleaned the wound. "You ever done this before?" "My father taught me basic field medicine. Said a woman in our world should know how to patch up the men stupid enough to get shot." She worked carefully, her fear slowly being replaced by anger. "Who did this?" "Could be anyone. Russo wanting revenge, one of the other families seeing weakness. Someone who wants my position, or someone close to you. Someone who knows your schedule, your movements." She met his eyes. "When did you tell people where we'd be tonight?" "This morning. At a meeting with my captains. All of them?" "Yes, why?" Then understanding dawned. "You think it's an inside job? Someone knew exactly where you'd be and when. Someone who had time to set up the ambush." Isabelle finished bandaging his shoulder. "Who was at that meeting?" Luca listed off names, men who'd been with the family for years, trusted soldiers, his inner circle. But as he spoke, Isabelle noticed his hesitation on one name. "Antonio. Your cousin. You don't trust him. He's family. That doesn't answer the question." Luca was quiet. "Antonio thinks he should be running the family. He's older than me, has more experience. When my father chose me as heir, Antonio took it badly. But he's loyal." "He wouldn't he?" Isabelle pulled up her laptop. "Let me check something." She spent the next hour digging through financial records, using her network of contacts, piecing together information. What she found was damning. Antonio had been meeting with Russo, had received large payments into offshore accounts, had been positioning himself to take over if Luca died. "He's been planning this for months," she said, showing Luca the evidence. "The hit tonight was his move. If you died, he'd step in as the natural choice to lead the family. No questions, no suspicion." Luca's expression was stone. "He's my cousin, my blood, and he tried to kill you." Isabelle took his hand. "What are you going to do?" "What I have to, family or not. Betrayal can't be ignored." He stood, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. "I'll handle this. You stay here." "No." "Isabelle, no. If I'm your partner, then I'm your partner in everything, including this." She met his gaze. "Besides, I found the evidence. I should be there when you confront him." They found Antonio at his usual bar, surrounded by his men. When Luca walked in with Isabelle beside him, Antonio's face went pale. "Cousin," Luca said coldly, "we need to talk. Privately." In the back room, with only Isabelle and Luca's most trusted men present, Luca laid out the evidence. Bank records, meeting logs, testimony from people who'd seen Antonio with Russo. Antonio tried to deny it, tried to explain, but the proof was overwhelming. "You tried to kill me," Luca said quietly. "Your own blood. For what? Power? Money? You don't deserve to lead this family," Antonio spat. "You're weak. You let a woman influence you. You're trying to go legitimate, turn us into corporate criminals." "That's not who we are!" "No, that's not who you are. You're a dinosaur, clinging to old ways that get us all killed or imprisoned." Luca moved closer. "But you're right about one thing. Isabelle does influence me. She makes me smarter, more strategic. She's the reason I found out about your betrayal before you could finish it." Antonio looked at Isabelle with pure hatred. "This is her fault. Before her, you were focused. Now you're distracted, weak." "Actually," Isabelle said calmly, "I'm the reason he's alive. I found the trap in Santini's contract. I identified Russo's involvement. I figured out you were the traitor, so yes, I influence him. I make him better. That's why you wanted him dead. Not because he's weak, but because together, we're stronger than you could ever be alone." Luca made his decision. "You have 24 hours to leave the country. Take nothing but what you're wearing. If you're ever seen in New York again, you're dead. This is mercy, Antonio, because of our blood. But it's the only mercy you'll get." Antonio left under guard, and Luca stood in the empty room, exhaustion and pain catching up to him. Isabelle moved to his side. "Are you okay?" "I just exiled my own cousin. You did what you had to. He would have killed you." "I know, but it doesn't make it easier." He looked at her. You were right. About partnership making me stronger. If you hadn't figured this out, I'd be dead right now. Then I guess keeping me around was a good business decision, she said lightly, trying to ease the tension. Luca pulled her close with his good arm. It stopped being just business a while ago. You know that, right? Isabelle's heart skipped. When? I don't know exactly. Somewhere between you insulting Russo at our wedding and you staying up all night to review contracts. Somewhere between you holding my hand in Italy and you saving my life tonight. He tilted her face up. I'm not good at this. At feelings. But I need you to know that you matter. Not as a business partner or a convenient wife. As someone I... He stopped, the words clearly difficult. As someone I care about. Luca, I know we agreed this would be a cold arrangement. But I don't want that anymore. I want something real. If you do. Isabelle stood on her toes and kissed him. Not a duty kiss like at their wedding, but real, genuine, full of all the feelings she'd been trying to ignore. When they broke apart, Luca was looking at her like she was something precious. We should get you home, she said. That shoulder needs proper care. And then we figure out what happens when a business arrangement becomes something more. 6 months after Antonio's exile, Isabelle had become an unofficial but undeniable power in the DeLuca organization. The men had learned to respect her insight, and Luca made no major decisions without consulting her. They'd stopped pretending their marriage was just business. They were partners in every sense, and everyone knew it, but not everyone was happy about it. It started with whispers, then open complaints. Several of the old guard captains expressed concerns to Luca that he was letting a woman have too much influence, that it made him look weak, that the other families were laughing at him. Let them laugh, Luca told his council. While they're busy mocking us, we're building something stronger. The transition to legitimate business is working. We've doubled our income, halved our legal exposure. That's not weakness. That's evolution. But the complaints continued. And then came the ultimatum, a meeting of the 5 families, where representatives from each major crime organization in New York gathered to discuss territory, disputes, and concerns. When Luca arrived with Isabelle beside him, the room fell silent. You brought your wife? Don Caruso, an old-school boss, looked appalled. This is family business. She is family, Luca said calmly. And she's my advisor. Anything you say to me, you can say in front of her. The meeting was tense. Other bosses made veiled comments about Luca being pussy-whipped, about women not understanding the realities of their world, about the DeLuca family losing its edge. Isabelle sat quietly, watching, listening. She noticed things. The way Don Caruso and Russo exchanged glances, how they seemed to be coordinating. She realized this wasn't just about her presence. This was a power play. When they started discussing territorial boundaries, Caruso proposed new divisions that would significantly reduce DeLuca holdings. It was outrageous, clearly designed to start a fight. Before Luca could respond, Isabelle spoke up. Interesting proposal, Don Caruso. Tell me, when you made this proposal to Russo last week, did you discuss how you'd split DeLuca territory between you, or did you plan to fight over it after you'd weakened us enough to take it? The room went silent. Caruso's face reddened. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I have phone records, meeting logs, testimony from staff at the restaurant where you met. She opened a folder and slid documents across the table. You and Russo have been planning to divide DeLuca territory for 3 months. This meeting was supposed to be the start of it. Provoke us, make us look unstable, give you justification to move against us. Luca took the documents, his expression hardening as he read. Is this true, Caruso? Your little whore is lying. Luca was across the table in a heartbeat, his gun pressed to Caruso's temple. Call her that again, please. Give me the excuse. Luca. Isabelle's voice was calm. He's not worth it. Besides, we have a better way to handle this. Luca slowly lowered the gun, his eyes never leaving Caruso. What do you suggest? Isabelle stood, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. Gentlemen, you've all made it clear you think a woman has no place in this world. That I'm a weakness in the DeLuca organization. So let me prove otherwise. She looked at Caruso. You and Russo wanted our territory. Fine. Let's make this interesting. A game. You have 1 month to take what you want from us. Hit our operations, steal our business, do whatever you think will break us, and we'll defend what's ours. At the end of the month, whoever comes out on top gets to dictate terms to the other. You're suggesting a war? Another boss looked shocked. I'm suggesting we settle this question once and for all. Is the DeLuca family weak because they listen to a woman? Or are we stronger because we're smart enough to use every resource we have? She smiled coldly. Unless Caruso and Russo are afraid of losing to a woman. Caruso stood, fury in his eyes. You're on. 1 month. And when I destroy your husband's empire, you'll beg for mercy. We'll see. Isabelle collected her documents. Meeting adjourned, gentlemen. I suggest you all go home and prepare. This is going to be interesting. In the car on the way home, Luca was silent. Finally, he said, Did you just start a war? I just turned their planned attack into a game with rules. This way, when we win, they can't claim we were the aggressors. She looked at him. Are you angry? I should be. You made that call without consulting me. He was quiet for a moment. But you were right. This way, we control the narrative, and we have 1 month to dismantle Caruso and Russo so thoroughly that no one will ever question us again. Exactly. She took his hand. Besides, they underestimate me. That's our advantage. They won't for long. The next month was chaos. Caruso and Russo hit DeLuca operations hard, attacked shipments, bribed away soldiers, spread rumors to damage business relationships. It looked bad at first. They were losing ground, losing money, losing respect. But Isabelle had been preparing. She'd spent 6 months building relationships with other families, with businessmen, with people outside their world who could be useful. While Caruso and Russo fought dirty, she fought smart. She reached out to the wives and daughters of their enemies' allies, the ones no one thought mattered. She offered them something their husbands and fathers never had: respect, opportunities, real power. Within 2 weeks, she had a network of women feeding her information about every move Caruso and Russo planned. She used Luca's legitimate businesses to undercut their operations. When they tried to move drugs, she had law enforcement waiting. When they tried to steal shipments, she'd already moved them. Every attack they launched backfired because she knew about it before it happened. Most importantly, she played a long game. While Caruso and Russo focused on immediate wins, Isabelle was systematically destroying their foundations. She exposed corruption that got their cops arrested. She bought out their suppliers. She turned their allies against them with better deals and solid information about their betrayals. 3 weeks into the month, both Caruso and Russo's operations were collapsing. Their men were being arrested or switching sides. Their money was drying up. Their allies were abandoning ship. On day 28, Russo showed up at the DeLuca compound, alone, asking for a meeting. He looked haggard, defeated. I underestimated you, he said to Isabelle. Both of you. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. Yes, you were, Isabelle said calmly. The question is what happens now. I'm offering peace. I'll pull back, stop the attacks, accept the current territorial divisions. That's generous of you, considering you're losing anyway. She walked around him slowly. But here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to give up 20% of your operations to us. You're going to publicly acknowledge that the DeLuca family is stronger than you thought. And you're going to remember this lesson the next time you think about challenging us. That's too much. It's mercy, considering we could destroy you completely. Luca stepped forward. Take the deal, Salvatore. Because if we have to finish this fight, there won't be anything left of your organization. Russo took the deal. So did Caruso, after his attempt to fight to the last day, ended with half his crew arrested in an FBI sting that Isabelle had orchestrated. When the month ended, the 5 families met again. This time, when Luca arrived with Isabelle, no one questioned her presence. They'd all seen what she was capable of. Gentlemen, Luca said, I think we've answered the question of whether my wife makes me weak. Any other concerns? Silence. Respectful, wary silence. Good. Then let's discuss the future. Because the DeLuca family is going in a new direction, and you can either adapt with us or get left behind. A year after their marriage, Isabelle had transformed from a reluctant bride into something the criminal underworld had never seen before. A mafia queen with actual power. She didn't operate in the shadows or through manipulation. She sat at the table with the men, made decisions, commanded respect through intelligence and strategy. Luca's organization had changed too. They'd successfully transitioned 70% of their operations to legitimate business. They still had criminal elements. You couldn't walk away from that world completely. But they were building something that could last beyond their generation. One evening, Luca came home to find Isabelle in his study, going over reports. He stopped in the doorway, just watching her. She'd changed from the angry young woman forced into marriage. She was confident now, powerful, completely in her element. "How long have you been standing there?" she asked without looking up. "Long enough to realize I'm incredibly lucky." She smiled and set down her papers. "What brought that on?" "I was thinking about our wedding day. How miserable we both were. How certain I was that we'd spend our lives as polite strangers sharing a house." He moved into the room, pulling her up from the desk. "I was wrong about so many things. Such as? I thought love was weakness. But loving you has made me stronger, smarter, better at everything I do. I thought I had to be cold to survive. But letting myself feel again, letting you in, it didn't destroy me. It saved me." Isabelle wrapped her arms around his neck. "You saved me too, from a life of being invisible, unimportant. You made me your partner. You gave me the chance to be more than anyone thought I could be. You did that yourself. I just got out of your way." He kissed her softly. "I love you, Isabelle. Not because I have to, not because you're useful, but because you're brilliant and fierce, and you make me want to be better than the man I was. I love you too, even though you're still terrible at expressing emotions. I'm working on it." He pulled back slightly. "I have something for you." He handed her a legal document. As she read it, her eyes widened. "This is paperwork making you an official partner in every DeLuca business operation. Not just my wife, not just my advisor, an equal partner with equal power." He held her gaze. "I want the world to know that you're not just the woman behind the throne. You're the queen, with every right and privilege that comes with that title." Tears filled Isabelle's eyes. "Do you know what this means?" "What you're giving me. Power, real, undeniable power. The kind that doesn't depend on being married to me. Even if something happened to me, you'd still control half of everything." He cupped her face. "You've earned it. You've proven yourself 100 times over. It's time everyone acknowledged what you are." "What am I?" "The most dangerous woman in New York. My partner. My equal, my queen." He kissed her again. "Sign the papers. Make it official." She signed, her hand steady, and felt the weight of what she'd just become. A year ago, she was a pawn in her father's schemes. Now she was a queen in her own right. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now, we build an empire, together, as partners. And we show everyone that the old ways are dying, that women can be just as powerful, just as ruthless, just as effective as men." He smiled. "We changed the game." I like the sound of that. That night, as they lay in bed, Isabelle thought about the journey that had brought her here. The forced marriage that became real love, the business arrangement that became a partnership, the underestimation that became her greatest weapon. She thought about all the women in their world who were trapped, voiceless, treated as property. And she made a decision. "Luca, I want to start something, a network, for women in our world who want more than what they're given. Teach them business, strategy, how to build power. Give them the tools to be more than wives and daughters." That's ambitious. And dangerous. A lot of men won't like it. I know. But someone has to start changing things. And I have the power now to protect them, to make it work. She rolled over to face him. "What do you think?" "I think you're going to revolutionize organized crime and probably terrify every old-school boss in the country." He kissed her forehead. "I think it's brilliant, and I'll support you completely. Even if it causes problems, especially if it causes problems, because change never comes easy, but it's necessary." He pulled her close. "Besides, I've learned that betting against you is always a mistake. If you say you can do it, you'll do it. We'll do it. Together, he agreed. 5 years after their marriage, Isabelle stood in front of a room full of women, wives, daughters, sisters of men, and organized crime families. She'd been holding these meetings for 3 years now, teaching them business skills, strategy, how to build their own power bases. Some of their husbands and fathers approved, seeing the value. Others were furious, but couldn't do anything about it without challenging the DeLuca family directly, and no one wanted that fight anymore. Power, Isabelle told the women, isn't something given to you. It's something you take, carefully and strategically. You can't announce you're taking it. They'll crush you. You have to build it piece by piece, until one day you wake up and realize you're indispensable. A young woman raised her hand. How do we do that in a world that doesn't want us to have power? You use their underestimation against them. Let them think you're just a pretty face, just a dutiful wife. Meanwhile, you're learning everything you can about the business, building relationships, becoming valuable. Isabelle smiled. By the time they realize what you've become, it's too late to stop you. After the meeting, an older woman approached. Gia Santini, whose husband had betrayed Luca years ago. She'd been left alone when Marco disappeared, struggling to survive. I wanted to thank you, Gia said quietly, for this, for giving us hope that we can be more than what we were born to be. You don't need to thank me. You're doing the work. Isabelle squeezed her hand. How's the restaurant doing? Better than expected. Turns out I'm good at business when given the chance. She smiled. My sons are helping run it, and they're learning that women can be just as capable as men. Maybe they'll be better than their father because of it. After Gia left, Luca appeared. He'd been waiting outside, giving Isabelle space to run her meeting. How'd it go? He asked. 23 women this time. 3 more than last month. Word is spreading. She took his hand as they walked to the car. Some of the bosses are complaining to you, aren't they? A few. They think you're radicalizing their wives and daughters, making them difficult. He smiled. They're right, but I remind them that difficult women built strong families, and that the world is changing whether they like it or not. Do you ever regret it, supporting this? I know it causes you problems. Never. You're building something important, something that will outlast both of us. He pulled her close. Besides, I like difficult women. I married one. Lucky you. They drove home through the city. Their city now, in many ways. The DeLuca Moretti alliance controlled significant territory, and their transition to legitimate business had been so successful that other families were copying their model. At home, Isabelle found a package waiting. Inside was a crown, not real, just a symbolic piece from one of the women in her network. But attached was a note. To the queen who taught us we could be kings. She showed it to Luca, who read the note and smiled. Poetic and accurate. You've started a revolution. We've started a revolution, she corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Without you believing I could be more than just your wife. I didn't make you powerful, Isabelle. You always were. I just stopped standing in your way. He set down the crown. Speaking of which, I have news. Your father called. He wants to retire, officially hand over control of the Moretti operations. To who? To you. He says you've proven yourself more capable than any son could have been. The Moretti family wants you as their head. Isabelle sat down slowly, processing. If I take that, combined with my partnership in DeLuca operations, I'd be one of the most powerful people in the city. Yes. Does that scare you? Terrifies me and excites me. She looked up at him. What do you think? I think you've been preparing for this your whole life. I think you'll be brilliant at it, and I think we make an unstoppable team. He knelt in front of her. Take it, build your empire. I'll be right beside you, equal partners. Always, she accepted her father's offer. The ceremony where she formally took control of the Moretti family was historic, the first woman to officially lead a major crime family in New York. Some bosses attended out of respect. Others stayed away in protest. All of them recognized that the game had changed forever. 10 years after their forced marriage, Luca and Isabelle DeLuca sat in their penthouse, overlooking the city they'd reshaped. Their criminal operations had been almost entirely eliminated, replaced by legitimate businesses that generated more money with less risk. They'd revolutionized how organized crime families operated, proving that evolution was possible. But more than that, they'd changed the culture. Women in their world now had opportunities that hadn't existed before. Several families had followed Isabelle's model, elevating capable women to positions of real power. It wasn't universal. There were still plenty of old guard bosses who resisted, but the tide was turning. "Do you ever miss it?" Isabelle asked, curled against Luca's side. "The old days. The violence and chaos. No, that life was exhausting. This is better. Building things instead of destroying them." He kissed the top of her head. "What about you? Any regrets? Only that we wasted so much time at the beginning, pretending we didn't care about each other. We were both scared. Of being vulnerable, of being hurt. It took time to realize that being vulnerable with the right person is strength, not weakness." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. In the distance, their empire stretched out, businesses, properties, influence that reached into legitimate society in ways traditional crime families never had. "I have something to tell you," Isabelle said quietly. "What's that?" "I'm pregnant." Luca went very still. Then he pulled back to look at her face, searching for the truth. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. About 10 weeks along. I found out yesterday." She bit her lip nervously. "I know we never really discussed children. I know it complicates things." He kissed her, cutting off her words. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. "This is the best news you could have given me. A child, our child. You're happy." "I'm terrified and thrilled in equal measure. But yes, I'm happy." He placed his hand on her still flat stomach. "What do you want? Boy or girl?" "I don't care. As long as they're healthy and happy." She covered his hand with hers. "But Luca, I need to know. What kind of life are we giving them? Are we truly out of the criminal world, or are we just pretending?" "We're out. 95% legitimate, and the remaining 5% is being phased out. By the time our child is old enough to understand, we'll be completely clean." He held her gaze. "I want them to have choices we never had. To live in a world where they're not defined by family obligations or criminal legacy. We're building that world, Isabelle. For them. Then let's finish it. Let's make sure that by the time they're born, the DeLuca and Moretti families are known for business empires, not crime empires." Deal. Over the next several months, they worked toward that goal. Final criminal ties were severed. Relationships with law enforcement were built. Their businesses became models of success. And when their daughter was born, Sophia, named after Isabelle's mother, she entered a world her parents had transformed. The other crime families watched and learned. Some followed the DeLuca model successfully. Others clung to old ways and found themselves increasingly marginalized, unable to compete with organizations that had evolved. But the biggest change was in how women were viewed. Isabelle had proven that intelligence, strategy, and business acumen weren't gender-specific. The women she'd trained were now running operations, making decisions, building their own power bases. The criminal underworld would never be the same. On Sophia's first birthday, as they celebrated with family and friends, Luca pulled Isabelle aside. "Look at this," he said, gesturing to the party. Former criminals and current business people mixing peacefully, women holding positions of power, our daughter growing up in a world where she can be anything she wants. "We did this. We did," Isabelle agreed. "From a forced marriage neither of us wanted to... this. An empire built on partnership instead of domination. Change instead of tradition. Do you think she'll understand someday? What we came from, what we built? I think we'll tell her the truth. That we were born into a violent world, forced into a marriage neither wanted, but we chose to make something better. Not perfect. We made plenty of mistakes along the way, but better." She looked at their daughter, surrounded by people who loved her. "And because we chose to change, she gets to have a life we never did. That's our legacy." Luca wrapped his arm around her waist, and they stood together watching their daughter, the future they'd built, the proof that even the darkest beginnings could lead to something beautiful. "I love you," he said quietly. "From that first dance at our wedding when I thought I was dancing with a stranger, to this moment when I can't imagine my life without you. I love you too. My reluctant husband who became my partner, my equal, my everything." She leaned into him. "We took a forced arrangement and turned it into an empire. We took underestimation and turned it into power. We took a world that wanted to keep us in boxes and we broke every box they tried to put us in. The Mafia Queen and her king, Luca said with a smile. No, Isabelle corrected. Two people who refused to be defined by the world they were born into. Who built something new, who proved that change is possible, even in the darkest places. As the sun set over their city, over their empire, over the life they'd built from impossible beginnings, Isabelle felt something she'd never expected to feel. Contentment. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. Not because they'd solved every problem. They hadn't. But because they'd taken a situation designed to trap them both and turned it into freedom. They'd taken a marriage that was supposed to be cold and empty and filled it with genuine love and partnership. They'd won. Not the way anyone expected, but in the way that mattered most. They'd won by refusing to play by the old rules, by writing new ones instead. Thank you for listening to The Mafia Queen's Gambit. If you enjoyed this story of a woman who refused to be underestimated and the man who learned to see her as an equal, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment telling me, do you think Isabelle and Luca truly escaped their criminal world? Or will it always be part of them? What would you have done in Isabelle's position? And what kind of leader do you think their daughter Sophia will become? Until next time, remember, power isn't given, it's taken. And the most dangerous person in any room is the one everyone underestimates. #dark romance. #mafia romance. #mafia queen. #enemies to lovers. #arranged marriage. #forced proximity. #power couple. This has been Dark Tales. Sleep well, and dream of queens who bow to no one.